and we're going to be doing the interior walls. The walls only. We're not going to be doing the trim or the ceiling, and we're going to show you how to do that. The first thing that we do is we find an area that's out of the way, that's not going to be any inconvenience to the client, where we can set down a cloth and put all the tools and equipment and materials that we're going to be using at the job at the moment. So yeah, the client has gotten everything adequately ready. All the furniture moved into the middle. Taken all the stuff off the walls. Taken as much stuff, especially all the small stuff, out of the areas. Anything fragile or valuable or sentimental has been taken out of the room. We are able to move furniture within reason. And then, so right now, we're putting down all the drop cloths. So the first step is, once we've gotten everything into the site and we're putting down the drop cloths, putting down what we call the runners along the outsides. This particular job, we're just doing the walls, we're not doing the ceilings. So, but we will be covering up all the furniture anyhow. But we generally put the thinner, longer drop cloths along the edges, and then the bigger, square drop cloths in the middle. So we put the drop cloths down in the areas that we're getting ready to work in. What we do next is we go along the tops of all the baseboards, especially. So the option is, if you're going to be doing the trim work along the base, then you would wipe off along the floor and tape on the floor line. But we're not doing the base, we're only doing the walls. So we wipe off along the base, and then we tape off along the base. It's very important to keep a perfectly straight line between the base and the wall. It seems pretty simple, but if you don't do it the right way, when you do paint, the line will come out a little funky. Also, another thing is that we can talk about later is that when you do paint up against your tape, you don't want to slap on the paint onto the tape just because tape's down there. You still want to be careful, because it can get, especially if you use too much paint, it can get behind the tape. What we do next is we go around and we take off all the cover plates, the switch plate covers, the on and off switch covers, and the outlets, the plug outlet covers, which are generally along the ground level. We'd like to take the screws out and then put the screws right back in to the same holes. Often people will take the screws and the plates out, and that works fine, but you run a greater risk of losing the screws or whatever. And the way we do it, by putting the screws right back into the same spot, that won't happen. So at this point, we go over all the wall surfaces. We take the work light and put it right up on the wall, and we go behind with the sandpaper and we knock down any bumps, imperfections, scuffs, gouges, and we smooth them out to the wall level as best as possible. And we do this, we go through the entire, all areas and all surfaces, wall surfaces. If we're doing the ceilings, we do the same things on the ceilings. And we would do the same thing on the trim work or the casings, whatever it is that we're doing. We don't think that there's any other way to do an expert job than this. So the next thing we do, after we're all set up, is we take the spackling blades and go over and get all the holes and cracks and nicks and nicks and nooks and crannies, etc., etc. So now that all the spackling and the repairing and everything is done, we're just going back over it and sanding everything all off, and then we're going to wipe it off with a slightly damp cloth, and then we're going to put on the first coat, or the prime coat. So yeah, now we're just vacuum everything out, get inside the switch plates and the cover plates, and get on top of all the base and on top of all the door trim and stuff, and then we're ready to start painting. So at this point, we take the paint or primer and we go over all of the plastered spots, because in case you don't know, the plaster does a thing when the paint's dry that it goes through the paint or the primer. It's called flashing. So if you have a situation where you may only need to do 1 or 2 coats of paint, you want to resolve the flashing issue first. So we go around and we get all of the spots that we spackled and caulked, and we'll often even go over spots that are dirty or stained at that point too. And then we'll go back and cut in the whole thing and then paint it. We've got this all cut in. We call it cutting in when we brush on the outside edges and around all the outlet covers and switch plates, the things that, and that way it's just set up so we can roll. So now we roll. How do you describe rolling? I don't know. I've been doing this a long time, so I can do quite a bit and put a lot on there without getting too messy. But the first thing that I do is I get the paint spread out first, so it's getting product or material on the wall. You don't want to put it too heavy on the edges and stuff, so when you roll it, it doesn't get rolled into the sides. That's the point of cutting it all in first, is eliminating having to get too close to the edges, and that way you can get some nice clean edges. So yeah, I go through and I get paint on the whole surface, and then I go back, and it's relatively simple. I make it look simple. I've been doing this for a long time. But then I go and I roll it all out. I roll into the edges, but don't hit any of the sides or anything. If you spread out the paint properly or put enough material onto the wall, you shouldn't have to get any more paint out of the bucket for this particular wall. Although it's getting a little dry, so I will do it. I just kind of spread it again. It's really about spreading it around evenly and not having any buildup and stuff. So if you're rolling and you notice it's a little thick, you go and move the paint around to an area where it's a little thin, or you know that you're not going to get in trouble, and that kind of stuff. You figure that stuff out just with time and experience. Yeah, if I was to be showing somebody how to do these walls, which we do offer a consultation for people and teach people how to do the stuff themselves, I would by no means be showing them to roll a wall like this, because it would be too tough. There would be paint all over the place. They just wouldn't, it would be likely that they wouldn't be able to get to it fast enough without it drying it properly. Well, there's the wall completely done, as well as the rest of the room, from what we can see from this angle. And the last thing we do is we've left the paints. These small cans on top are their original paints that they chose from their trying a bunch of different ones. The bottom cans are the ones that we had them mixed into, and then we make all these little cards that explain the paints and where they came from, and the mixes and the formulas and the sheens and the colors and the dates, and that way they can put them in their records, and if there was never an issue with the cans and stuff, they could get something relatively close. Obviously there's nothing that beats using the original paint, and we're going to be doing the interior walls. We've got this all cut in. Well, there's the wall completely done.